So I have the honor of introducing our next speaker, Dr. Robert Curl, University Professor Emeritus, the Pitzer-Schlumberger Professor of Natural Sciences Emeritus, Professor of Chemistry Emeritus. Over the span of his career, he's had so many achievements and accolades, and for the sake of time, I encourage you to read the bio that we provided for you in your folder this morning. Because he just has had such a wonderful career and has done great things. So I'm so honored today that he is able to join us, and the pleasure of introducing Dr. Robert Curl, our next speaker.
The forward arrow is move slides, is that correct? I think. We'll see. Okay. John Bowles is a very hard act to follow. I agree with him that my rice experience was definitive. I'm, of course, much older than John. I'm class of 54. And I've been at Rice on faculty since 1958. So what I'm going to talk about today doesn't have anything to do with chemistry. What happened was that after I retired, I decided, well, it's time to try to do something different. And I had taught a course with Bob Brito, a freshman course in technological disasters and catastrophes, which we enjoyed very much. I hope that some of the students did too. And I said, well, I got to thinking about what would be the way to reduce carbon dioxide emissions. And so we did a paper together on what sort of carbon tax would be sufficient to drive production of electricity away from coal, because coal is the largest identifiable single carbon dioxide emitter. And turned out all depended on the price of natural gas. And we greatly overestimated how natural gas would be, how expensive natural gas would be. And it turned out, of course, nothing was done, but natural gas has replaced coal almost exclusively because the price is better. So since Bob is an economist, I began learning a lot about the market and the forces of the market. And what I want to talk today about is how the forces of the market are impinging on life in the United States and society in the United States. So this is not a political talk, but we're probably all thinking that somehow something is happening to our country. Our country seems to be different than it used to be. And so I want to talk about what's happening to our country. So probably one of the most significant things that's happened is that throughout American history, I think parents have always felt like their children, our children is going to do better than we're doing. That we're going to be, at least they do well enough to take care of us in our old age. And so, what I'm going to talk about first is some studies that I studied, Center for Economic Studies. He specializes in the effects of poverty, but this will give you, he does lots of things just to give you an idea. If you were born in 1940, it was almost a dead cert that your kids would do better than you, because if you were born in, you would do better than your parents, because your parents went through the Depression, they had their careers slowed down by the Second World War, so they got a very late start in life, and so almost 100% of kids born in 1940 did better than their parents did. But as you move up, what happens is that each succeeding 10 years, the chance, pointer out, they're arrested, so I shouldn't really have to tell you this, but the point is that the curves go down, the worse relatively, the lower the expectation of children compared to their parents. And so, overall, it looks like this. If kids born in 1940 had almost 100% chance of doing better in life in terms of income. That's what the quantitative nature of all accounts. Then kids born in later times has come down ever since. And so that's one thing that's going on. This is sort of one of the deaths of one of the American dreams in terms of if this continues, then the kids are not only going to not do as well as you, they're going to do much worse than you. So what the other big aspect of things is the creation of no income inequality. So if you look at, you take the ratio of the income of the top 10% divided by the income of the bottom 90%, then in each period of time, the top 10% was the total amount of money that the top 10% got was about half of what the bottom 90% got. And something happened in the late 70s and around 1980, and we began to see growing inequality, and each almost essentially the top 10% is as much money in total as the bottom 90%. So there's been a kind of a hollowing out of the middle class, and the question is why? So one of the things that sort of made a lot of news in politics is this. You outsource labor to lower wage countries, and the American labor can't compete with the style of living that they would like to have. The other thing that's a factor in growing inequality is automation. You can automate jobs. You don't have to employ as many people, so people lose their jobs and then have to compete. And the rest of the people have to compete with them. So let's look at these factors. This is the wages in China, which is the red line, and Mexico, which is the blue line. And it's really true that in Mexico, that a factory worker gets about $4 an hour. So American factory workers want at least $20 an hour. So that shows that they're in no position nobody wants to work for $4 an hour in the United States. So that's one factor. And of course, that was made much of in the election. We were going to stop this competition for jobs and bring our manufacturing back. Oh, that's green. Anyway, so bring back manufacturing to the United States and we'll get all these good manufacturing jobs back. Well, there's a catch to that. This plot here shows the business inflation and adjusted output. It shows the output of manufacturing in the United States as a function of time starting in 1987, I guess, going up to 2016. And this shows the number of people employed in manufacturing in the United States. So productivity has gone up enormously. And largely that's because of the introduction of robots into manufacturing. So I feel like that those manufacturing jobs are not going to come back like they might think, because if a production can be robotized, any new plant built in the United States would be highly robotized. And some of these plants, if they're typically, you can produce the same amount of output for 10% of the workers. So it's just not, I don't see that it's going to happen. So, question is, what's really the case? This is what I just told you. And here's the short story on automation. Automation allows capital to substitute for labor to a very large extent. And we have a lot of people talk about, well, we had the Industrial Revolution. There's a huge displacement, and after an anguish of over 100 years or so, things stabilized, and the work labor was better off than it was before. Remember that communism was created in the middle of the 19th century. But what the Industrial Revolution did was it allowed capital to substitute for muscles, men and horses. And so what automation does is it allows you to machines to substitute for the brains of men or women. In other words, they no longer to a large extent need the brains of humans. And of course, the Industrial Revolution was, before the Industrial Revolution, horses were widespread, many horses. After the Industrial Revolution, they're used for sport and amusement, primarily. So this substitution is irreversible. It is in any, it's irreversible in a market society. So we're going to have to, if we don't have a market society, then if we somehow never taxed robots or did something like that, we wouldn't be able to keep up with other developed companies. Now, one thing that a lot of people aren't aware of is that the 21st century has introduced a revolution in artificial intelligence. After decades of machine learning being nonsense, that final nut was cracked. And now machines can learn like crazy, and they can do very complex tasks. So a huge problem for automation is the driverless car, because the main thing that people are good at and computers are not is the unanticipated. Something coming out of nowhere to affect things. And if you imagine all the various things that a driver encounters in driving in a big city, it would seem incredible that you could ever teach a computer to be able to handle it. But they're getting there. The simplest case, of course, would be long-distance trucking, because you're on the interstate highway. It's pretty much 2 lanes. Things don't happen very often, and when something does happen, that makes it, like it snows or the road is blocked or something like that, the driverless truck could pull over and call home and ask somebody to help it out. Anyway, this is going to have a huge impact on employment of people who drive cars for a living. So the question really is, how many jobs will disappear? And there are a whole bunch of people working on this. I happened to go to the Delane conference here at Rice that was organized by Marcia Vardy and computers to discuss the impact of computers on work. And one of the most interesting talks was actually about a 10-minute talk given by a panelist in the last session. Stuart Elliott talked about comparing what computers could do to what people could do. And he, this is sort of, you're still at the edge of knowing what's right and what's wrong. He thought that the worst case would be that only 1/3 of the people could do what a computer could do. Best case, or that was in terms of worst case, that's the maximum number of people who fraction of the population that could compete successfully with computers. Could do, only 1/3 of the population could do more than computers. So in the United States, he estimated it with our current education, it might be 17% of the population. I had 20% because the numbers are vague. So how does this affect the economy? What's going on? Well, you can think about jobs, and you can divide them in terms of what are scarce skills that are. A scarce skill means it's a skill that's not that there only a few people can do it, but rather only a few people can do it, and it's a needed job. It's something that people need to do. So, for example, you could be a violinist, and the number of top jobs for violinists is a tiny fraction of the number of people that can play the violin. So, although being able to play the violin is a fairly rare ability, the quality that's required to actually get a job is very, very high. Anyway, so you're dividing the jobs into these categories. You have the bulk of the jobs don't require skills that very few people have or can acquire. And the top category of jobs that demand people and are very demanding and there's really a shortage of them. And then if you go from left to right, there are jobs that can only be done by humans, and this is a dividing line, just arbitrary, and there are jobs that either humans or robots can do. And so, effectively, these jobs don't pay well because everybody can do them. These jobs pay well now, but as robots become more and more important, they're going to disappear, and they're going to be replaced by robots during this job. So it's only the jobs that are in high demand and the robots can't do, or automation can't be done. And those jobs are the sort of thing where you have to deal with complex situations that are not easy to anticipate. You have to have the ability to manage complex situations that are easy to anticipate. So a computer, if you have a restricted area of a restricted domain with nothing outside that domain, computers can be programmed to do them better than any person. So you have chess playing machines can beat any human, even the top grand champions. And the Go machines can beat the best Go player. So, but that's because it's all in a box. It's all restricted. So what happens? We call the people in the pink area who are sure to have a job, type A, and the rest of the population type B. And all the argument is really about how many are type A are going to be, how many are going to be type B. And the thing is that type A is a scarce factor, and market economies reward scarcely needed people. And the people who are displaced by automation, they enter the labor market because they want to eat, and they're competing with people that are already there. So the effect is to lower wages in general. So one of the ways out that's touted a lot is people say, well, if we just do our education better, then we will have, there'll be ways out, people will get these good jobs. Oh, this is good, gives me time to think. They'll get these good jobs. And that's actually what Stuart Elliott's business was about. He was comparing young people in Scandinavian countries coming through education, and Finland has one of the best education systems in the world. That was up to a third. People coming out of education in the United States, about 17%, he estimated, would be able to do jobs that for the next few years that automation couldn't do. So, to show you what I'm talking about, here are some high-level jobs. This is PhDs in economics. Economists like to study themselves. It's a PhD in economics, and this blue line indicates that if you get a job in a reasonable American university, if you publish one paper in something that's equivalent to American Economics Reviews, the economists categorize all their journals. So American Economics Review is the highest. That's the number one journal. And anyway, if you get one paper out before tenure time, you'll be promoted. And so Harvard turns out about 5 people who could get tenure in a major university, and they have a class of 31. And then the other top 30 universities can turn out, I think it's 20 people altogether. They get, in other words, Harvard gets 5 graduates out of its class of 30 that can get tenure. The other 30 universities have about 2 or 3 black per university, about 3 or 4, but this is 2 because they turn about 20 altogether. And in the bottom 131 actually turn out people, 31 people a year who could earn tenure at a university, but only 1% of the total number of PhDs. So it seems like a really competitive business. It is if you want to be a PhD, if you want to be an economics professor. On the other hand, you shouldn't wait for the people, those graduates who don't want to be an economic professor. They do very well, they get good jobs. But that's an example of high competition. Another example is high competition is law school graduates. So the average law school graduate, you can expect an initial salary offering, this was 2011, maybe worse now, about $50,000, $60,000. But there's this unusual group, and of course these are all the people that go to the big firms as associates, and they're competing. The big firms are competing for the best associates. But of course, their life isn't over just because they got a job. I mean, their future is not assured just because they get a job as an associate at a big firm. Some 6 to 10 years later, they come up for a severe reading process where if you make partner, your life is secure. If you don't make partner, typically in the past at least, you left the firm. So you can see that at the very top, there's really a huge difference in people. So let's talk, this is the main thing. I hope I haven't run out of time yet. This is the main point, because the question is, what is this going to do? What's this going to continue? It's going to get more and more important factor. I think it's already a factor because we've seen the effects of losing the restaurant jobs in manufacturing. And so, one of the upsides is that robots will only be employed if they're cheaper than people. to do a particular job. In other words, capital would buy. Capital is in the market is indifferent whether it's a robot or a person. So if the robot costs more than the person, then the person gets the job. If the person costs more than the robot, then the robot gets the job. And so presumably, since robots and automation seems to be coming in more and more, goods would be cheaper because the cost of manufacturing would go down. On the other, that's an upside. On the downside is that if you can't get one of these good jobs unless you're something special about you, you're a smart kid, then for most kids, in terms of economics, going to school doesn't really do much for them. Won't do much. And so, another thing is that, smart kids, smart people can have dumb kids. Or kids that get in some sort of addiction or don't seem to want to do any work. We're creating smart people really with type A's. So how are you going to replace the kids that run off the rails? And so you do need to educate people, and the education situation is kind of grim in a certain sense. The elite universities like Rice, elite private universities, I don't know that what I'm about to say applies to Rice, but Channing says it applies to most elite universities, is that there are as many kids admitted whose parents are in the top 1% of income as the number of kids admitted whose parents are in the bottom 50% of income. So elite schools are really quite elite financially elite in terms of the income of their parents. Now, the good news about that is that even kids, the kids that come from the very lowest part of the income scale who get admitted to an elite university usually turn out to do quite well in terms of what the university does something for them. It does help them to get a higher, to raise their economic level. So, but it's not going to replace what the elite universities are going to do to replace the most. At the other end of the scale, the places like University of Texas Brownsville, say, they enroll a lot of kids who come from very poor economic backgrounds, but they don't do too much for turning them into great producers. So it's a factor, large number, relatively small return of ones that succeed. Anyway, this is an issue. Now, this is a question. And I don't know, I would be happy to know your thoughts about what this question is, but if your educators aren't if your voters aren't educated, how are they going to understand the issues involved in the election and how that will affect the function of democracy? Okay, and this next one is more subtle. The question: if you're being left out of the economy, how are you going to feel good about yourself? Because one of the things that the U.S. is pretty bad about is actually having people not, attaching feelings of self-worth to economic success. It tends, anyway, you can, there are ideas you could try, you could certainly, for example, the government could intervene and shorten work week so that there's more workers are employed. You could raise it so that you couldn't use multiple part-time jobs very effectively. But also, building a community is important. And actually, in Houston, there's some pretty good examples of people who have devoted their life to, places like Sunnyside or some awards to building the community. And the government somehow or another could get some kind of awards for educating yourself for community service. Anyway, the big question, and I don't have an answer to this. I wish I did. I'd love to hear your answers. What should the role of government be in managing the societal effects of automation? So with that, I stop. The place where I definitely have no answers.